Every U.S. president and their medical history. The health of U.S. presidents is a well-kept secret, especially while they're in office. The public is on a need-to-know basis, and, generally speaking, the government doesn't think the public needs to know at all, especially when it comes to presidents' illnesses. From George Washington to Teddy Roosevelt to Barack Obama, presidents have suffered from various ailments before, during, and after holding their positions. Considering how unwell some of these guys were, it's amazing they accomplished anything at all during their first 100 days in office. Some presidents were pretty healthy from a young age, others were sickly during their whole lives, and others were plagued with maladies on and off, no actual instances of plague, though, luckily. However, some of these presidential ailments might just surprise you. George Washington. The short list: malaria, diphtheria, pneumonia, dysentery, tonsillitis, smallpox, carbuncles, farsightedness, hearing loss, throat infection, depression, loss of teeth. In addition to his famously problematic oral health, George Washington suffered from several illnesses throughout his life. At the age of 17, he contracted malaria and continued to suffer bouts of it until his death. He was afflicted with diphtheria, pneumonia, dysentery, and tonsillitis, mostly when he was in the military. Washington was also in close proximity to tuberculosis while in Barbados at the age of 19, and this may account for his purported sterility. Washington suffered carbuncles, farsightedness, and was losing his hearing during the late 1780s. It's unclear exactly what Washington died from, but speculation is that he had a bacterial infection of his epiglottis that led to suffocation. He may have also had pneumonia. John Adams. Medical unusual monuments in the United States worth visiting. America is a land of oddities, where almost anything can be memorialized. From majestic national monuments to quirky statues, the country has a penchant for commemorating the unexpected. Our towns boast some wild names, and sometimes we immortalize things that hold significance only to a small group of people. Across the U.S., you'll find a variety of bizarre monuments representing animals, plants, theories, and other local fascinations. Some of the strangest even showcase our love for satire and humor. No matter their purpose, these peculiar monuments add a unique charm to any cross-country road trip. T. Fountain, Chicago, Illinois. John Tyler. Medical issues: partial paralysis, dysentery, respiratory infections, arthritis, kidney pain, stroke. John Tyler, a slender man, experienced partial paralysis at the age of 30, possibly due to a tick bite or foodborne bacteria. Throughout his life, Tyler dealt with dysentery, frequent colds, kidney pain, arthritis, and general aches, especially during his post-presidency years. Known for fathering at least 15 children, he also struggled with dizziness, nausea, and shortness of breath before suffering what is believed to have been a stroke in 1862. James K. Polk. Medical issues: urinary tract stones, sore hands, cholera. James K. Polk endured urinary stones as a child, necessitating their removal due to severe pain, which may have contributed to his apparent sterility as he never fathered children. As an adult, he maintained good health overall. His primary complaint was damage to his hand from shaking numerous hands. Tragically, he succumbed to cholera shortly after leaving office in 1849. Zachary Taylor. Medical issues: dysentery, malaria, yellow fever, typhoid/cholera morbus. After recovering from yellow fever at 23, Zachary Taylor resumed military service but soon contracted dysentery. He endured at least 3 bouts of malaria throughout his life, impacting his health significantly. Taylor also suffered from various fevers and contracted cholera during his presidential tour in 1849, from which he recovered. In 1850, he likely succumbed to typhoid or cholera morbus. There are various theories surrounding Taylor's death, including food poisoning or deliberate poisoning. He famously ate cherries and milk on the 4th of July, experienced digestive discomfort shortly after, and passed away 5 days later. Millard Fillmore. Medical issues: strokes. Millard Fillmore was considered one of the healthiest U.S. presidents, with no reported medical issues until he experienced 2 strokes in 1874. The second stroke proved fatal. Fillmore abstained from drinking and smoking and was diligent about maintaining his well-being throughout his life. Franklin Pierce. Medical issues: alcoholism, tuberculosis, coughing, depression, war injury, cirrhosis of the liver. Franklin Pierce was a spirited youth who sustained injuries during the Mexican-American War and occasionally experienced fainting episodes. Both he and his wife suffered from tuberculosis and frequent bouts of coughing. Tragically, they endured profound grief after their son's death in a train accident, which led to Pierce's battle with depression. He also sustained minor injuries during the accident. Pierce struggled with alcoholism throughout his life, with periods of sobriety alternating with periods of drinking. In his later years, his health deteriorated, and he resumed drinking. He ultimately passed away in 1869 from cirrhosis of the liver and possibly stomach inflammation. James Buchanan. Medical issues: alcoholism, eye defect, gout, dysentery, respiratory illness. James Buchanan's eye twitch was said to match his twitchy personality. He suffered from dysentery at least twice during his residence in Washington, D.C. Buchanan was fond of morning walks and indulged in food and drink, leading to the development of gout. At 77 years old, he caught a cold that progressed to respiratory failure. As the only bachelor president, speculation about Buchanan's sexuality has persisted. Abraham Lincoln's health has been the subject of numerous conflicting accounts in historical records. As a boy, he suffered concussions and head injuries, accidentally cut off part of his own thumb with an axe, and endured frostbite on his feet. He contracted malaria in both 1830 and 1835. Reports from Lincoln's law partner suggested he had syphilis in 1835 and described him as tall with long limbs, a long face, and a sunken chest, which may indicate Marfan syndrome. Lincoln also experienced a broken jaw, scarlet fever, flat feet, bouts of melancholy, and was reportedly physically abused by his wife Mary. During his presidency, Lincoln suffered from food poisoning in 1861, profound depression following the death of his son in 1862, and possibly smallpox in 1863. Signs of cancer were noted as early as 1860, and his facial asymmetry and other symptoms have been attributed to Men-2B syndrome. Lincoln also experienced a receding hairline and developed farsightedness with age. Tragically, he was shot in the head on April 14, 1865. The bullet entered behind his left ear, lodged behind his right eye, and he passed away the following day. Andrew Johnson. Medical issues: typhoid fever, stroke. Andrew Johnson fell ill with typhoid fever a few months before Lincoln's second inauguration, where he served as vice president. He remained unwell on the day of the ceremony and, in an attempt to feel better, took several shots of whiskey but ended up causing a drunken incident. This incident unfairly labeled him as a drinker, despite not being one. During his presidency, Johnson suffered from chronic kidney stones. He passed away in 1875 from a stroke. Ulysses S. Grant. Medical issues: substance abuse, cancer. Ulysses S. Grant smoked cigars heavily throughout his life, sometimes consuming as many as 12 to 20 a day. This habit contributed to the throat cancer that eventually claimed his life. Grant also battled alcohol abuse, leading to his dismissal from the military in 1854 due to excessive drinking. Additionally, he became addicted to cocaine, which was used to alleviate pain in his throat. Rutherford B. Hayes. Medical issues: bullet wounds, war injuries, heart attack. Rutherford B. Hayes, described as a delicate child, endured multiple injuries during the Civil War, including wounds to his knee, ankle, and 3 separate bullet wounds. Rumors once circulated that he had perished from his last wound. As president, Hayes implemented a ban on alcohol and other substances at the White House. He experienced only one notable health issue while in office: a bout of poison ivy. Hayes passed away from a heart attack in 1893. James A. Garfield. Medical issues: malaria-like illness, colds, anal fissure, jaundice, bullet wounds, abscess, pneumonia, chest pains. At age 14, while working on a canal boat, James A. Garfield suffered from what was then known as ague, a malaria-like illness characterized by fever, chills, and fatigue. Throughout his life, Garfield battled several colds and episodes of indigestion. In 1875, he was bedridden with an anal fissure. During the Civil War, Garfield contracted jaundice, which necessitated his return home for recovery. In July 1881, Garfield was shot twice, with one bullet entering his back, shattering a rib, and lodging in his abdomen. Despite attempts by doctors, the bullet remained in his body until his death in October of the same year. Over the ensuing 4 months, Garfield suffered from symptoms indicating a likely infection, including fever, weakness, and an abscess. He later developed pneumonia and experienced chest pains before passing away in his sleep. Chester A. Arthur. Medical issues: obesity, Bright's disease, kidney failure, malaria, heart disease, hypertension. Once trim in his